Shalom, this is Gamali Allah, the Great Millstone, Atlanta. I want to give all praises to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai Bashim Rakakwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Shalom to all the Akim that are pushing out this truth and sincerity. This is an article, and found this off of blacklistednews.com. Article and video. But going into nuclear weapons, I don't have a title just yet, but this is going to be pertaining to this subject. All right, it says, inside the $1.5 trillion nuclear weapons program you've never heard of. All right, it says, this article is part of the Nuclear Age, a special report on 1.5 trillion effort to make the nuclear arsenal, the American nuclear arsenal, which we'll check that out too. Let me see what this is. Okay, so this is something to look into as well. All right. It says the U.S. plans to modernize nuclear weapons are dangerous and unnecessary. What radioactive fallout tells us about nuclear future, our nuclear future. All right, so all these things. Then it also goes into let's see. The point of the thing was to forever change our concept of power. When the U.S. military assembled a team of scientists led by physicist J. Robert Oppenheimer to build a nuclear bomb during the World War II with the hope of beating the Nazis to such a terrible creation. Many of those involved saw their efforts as a strange kind of civic destiny. Okay? And yeah, you know, we go into the we go into Oppenheimer with the nuclear bomb, you know, and before that was the atomic bomb. Let's see. Or that may be the same thing. Oppenheimer himself once said the atomic bomb was the turn of the screw. It made the prospect of future war unendurable. Okay? Yeah, so it was the atom bomb. Let's get into this video. You can check out this article, but we're gonna go straight to this video because it has a lot of gems in it. So let's go ahead and get right into it.
The modernization effort that the United States is undergoing now is the largest modernization we've ever done in history.
Brigadier General Ty Newman is Deputy Director for Plans and Programs at the Air Force Global Strike Command. He helped lead and shape the 2022 Nuclear Posture Review, a federally mandated report that establishes the country's nuclear policy, strategy, and capabilities. Newman says,
before we even get here, let's get into some precepts. This is Isaiah 54:16. Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work, and I have created the waster to destroy. So the Spirit of the Lord was on Oppenheimer to create this sword, man, which is the missile, which is the atomic bomb. You know, and the Lord, like I said, the Lord put His Spirit in these Edomites, these scientists, to create and perfect these weapons, man. You know, it says no weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, and every tongue that shall rise against thee in judgment thou shalt condemn. That was pretty much the point. The waster to destroy, though. All right. Let's see. Let's keep going.
Replacing the current nuclear arsenal with more sophisticated and powerful weapons is the military's top national security priority.
We're now facing two nuclear peer adversaries that have or are building a significant nuclear enterprise of their own. In the case of the People's Republic of China, They're building a triad similar to ours.
Triad refers to the three legs of the military's core nuclear strategy. More than 1,700 warheads are currently deployed on 14 submarines, on 60 Air Force bombers, and in 400 intercontinental ballistic missiles, or ICBMs. Each ICBM has a warhead with at least 20 times the destructive power of the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. These ICBMs, known as Minuteman IIIs, sit inside 450 underground silos spread out across North Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, and Nebraska. And in the coming decade, each of the 450 silos will be replaced. The old missiles will be taken out, and new Sentinel ICBMs will be put back in.
We think of the ICBM leg as the most responsive, being that the ICBMs are on alert 24/7, 365 days a year.
But what the land leg does more than any other part of the triad is create targets in the U.S. where people live.
U.S. ICBMs sit in silos in the ground. And we know that if the Russians and possibly the Chinese target those ICBMs, they'll destroy them. And so if you know this, and if you know that Russian ICBMs can arrive in this country in 30 minutes or less, well, that means you have an incentive to launch them on warning.
Item 132.
Yeah, so as they're saying, these Russian missiles can reach America within 30 minutes. And then all they got to do is hit those targets,
Launch closure door open.
These targets right here.
Sit in silos.
The land leg does more than any other part of the
The missile silos.
triad is create targets in the U.S. where people live.
U.S. ICBMs sit in silos in the ground. And we know that if the Russians and possibly the Chinese target those ICBMs, they'll destroy them. And so if you know this, and if you know that Russian ICBMs can arrive in this country in 30 minutes or less, well, that means you have an incentive to launch them on warning.
Item 132. Launch closure door open.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, launch.
And once the ICBMs are launched, they can't be recalled. They can't be destroyed in flight. They're going to their targets.
Sharon Weiner is an associate professor and national security expert.
And what does that remind you of? In the scripture it says, they shall not break their ranks. They shall hit their target. Missiles won't break their ranks.
With a focus on nuclear weapons policy at the School of International Service at American University.
There are a whole variety of ways that system can mistake something for an incoming strike. Is this real, or is it potentially a false alarm? And we know there have been hundreds of false alarms, hundreds of problems. Nuclear weapons are outdated. What's more horrible than a nuclear weapon and the threat that you could kill not just yourself and your adversary, but everybody else who's not even involved in the conflict?
It's the ultimate foundation. It's the safety mechanism. It's the insurance policy that we have, and I applaud our policymakers and our administration for fully supporting this and getting behind it, as well as the continued funding from Congress.
The original placement of missile fields was decided during the Cold War. They needed to be close enough to reach Russia, but theoretically far enough from major population centers. But new research shows that if a modern-day adversary were to target them, the damage and fallout would affect millions more people than previously thought.
When you're attacking a missile silo,
And then, it's a spirit too, because look at this right here on the side, the suggested videos. It says Russia's nuke targets. Then it has those same locations. So all they got to do is hit these particular targets, and the fallout, as they're saying, is going to be detrimental. And that goes into the wormwood spoken of in Revelations, where it goes into basically that nuclear, that wormwood is basically the nuclear fallout. Okay, the radioactivity. All right.
With a nuclear weapon, you're essentially blowing up the ground, creating those gigantic mushroom clouds, which carry.
And what is that? The mushroom cloud speaks about the mushroom clouds in the Bible, man. You know, the scroll, the giant scroll. Let's find that. I'm trying to find this other precept, but I can't find it. Yeah, Isaiah 34 and 4. And all the host of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll, and all their hosts shall fall down, as the leaf falleth from the vine, and as a falling fig from the fig tree. Okay.
The radioactivity of the nuclear explosion itself.
So this is the future. This is the future of America: is nuclear destruction. All right, and you know they're going into it, man. They're all going. They're going into these topics, man.
And these mushroom clouds get dispersed by.
And they're not creating these just to sit. You know, they're not creating and perfecting these weapons and spending $1.5 trillion just for nothing, man. They gotta have this type of defense, okay? Because it's like a power thing, man. You know, it's basically to intimidate the other countries. But they're not going to spend all this money to not use it, man. Eventually, it's going to be used. And the Lord's going to put the Spirit on them to use it. All right?
By the local winds, a lot of that radioactivity get pushed by winds that have much higher speed, essentially, than what you experience on the ground. And so that large amount of radioactivity get dispersed over hundreds of miles downwinds.
And a good example of that is maybe about a year ago or whenever that was. You had those fires in the north. I don't know, was it New York? You had those fires, and you still had you know, it was the sky was hazy, but you could see it all the way in the south, man. You know, those winds carried that that haze, you know, all the way. You know, and the skies are orange, man. You know, I don't, you know, I can't quite remember the specific, you know, date, but yeah, you could see those skies being hazy all the way in the south from the north. Okay.
Sebastian Philippe is a research scholar at Princeton University's Program on Science and Global Security, focusing on nuclear weapons and emerging technologies. Philippe's model uses...
So this guy knows the dangers, man. This guy knows the dangers of these nuclear weapons, man. You know?
atmospheric transport software to track millions of radioactive particles as they are dispersed by the winds.
The scale of the potential impact was way bigger than any overrepresentation that I had seen before.
Earlier maps made by researchers at FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency.
And if I'm not mistaken, these examples are just, you know, I mean, look at the number of missiles that would potentially hit, and look at the targets. We're just talking about a few missiles. America's going to be hit with 200 million.
Used average wind.
You know, they're making these predictions and models just based off of, you know, a few targets hit. But we're talking about missiles on top of missiles, man.
Average nuclear impacts, not worst-case scenarios. But Philippe's work reveals the real cost of possible nuclear war.
The radioactivity and the fallout from those weapons will cross the entire country. People living there would be at risk, one way or another, of receiving lethal doses of radiation.
Yeah, so going into, like I said, going into that wormwood, which, you know, we're not going to get. Bros, you've been around, you know, y'all know the breakdown. But let's get some precepts and start wrapping up. This is Jeremiah 51 and 2. It says, well, I'll start at 1. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, I will raise up against Babylon and against them that dwell in the midst of them that rise up against me, a destroying wind. Okay. Now, what is a destroying wind? That's going into the missiles, but also going into that fallout. You know, it says, and I will send unto Babylon fanners that shall fan her and empty her land, for in the day of trouble they shall be against her round about. So going into nuclear destruction again. All right, and empty her land. So this place is going to be laid empty, laid completely desolate. Malachi 4:1, for behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble. And the day cometh, and the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith the Lord of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. Okay? So this place is going down, man. You know, that's pretty much the point. You know, this is a good video to check out. Going into nuclear war, it goes into plutonium, goes into pit production, and you know, all these different things. So this is the reality. Okay, the reality is that America will be hit with nuclear destruction. Will be met with nuclear destruction very soon. All right, and the spirit is being put on these people to document it and go into it. So, you know, that's pretty much the point. Lord willing, you were edified. Give all praise to Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Kakwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Shalom.